They say betrayal feels like a knife in the back, but for me, it felt more like a slow rot, quiet, invisible, until everything finally collapsed under its own weight. I'm 41 now. I work in mid-level logistics at a freight company in Augusta, Georgia. It's not glamorous, but it pays well enough and gives me just enough room to pretend I'm not still that insecure kid trying to prove his worth to a family that never really saw him. I wasn't supposed to see the napkin. That was the twist. A stupid little diner napkin at the bottom of my mom's purse. The kind you scribble something on when you don't want it found, unless you're dumb enough to lose track of it. And she was. It had one line written in her familiar looping script. Eric said she'll go for it if I give her an opening, just a little push. I'll talk to her this weekend. At first, I didn't understand it. Eric's my brother. My fiance's name was Kara. And Mom? Well, she'd always been too involved in our lives. She dressed it up as motherly concern, but it was really just control with a smile. I should have let it go. Should have told myself it was about something else. But I didn't. I kept digging because part of me already knew. Turns out, Mom didn't just disapprove of Kara. She resented her. Said she reminded her too much of my father's old flings, which was funny, considering Dad's been gone for years and she's been holding a grudge against ghosts ever since. She thought Kara was beneath us, or rather, beneath me. And I guess she figured if she couldn't scare her off, she'd just nudge her into Eric's arms. Eric, the golden boy, the one who could set fire to the kitchen and still get praise for trying to cook. I used to think he was just reckless. Turns out, he was calculated. And when I finally caught them, him half-dressed, Kara avoiding my eyes, Mom just happening to stop by minutes later with that smug little twitch at the corner of her mouth, I knew. It hadn't just happened. It had been planned. Here's the twist, though, and maybe this is where I admit my part in the mess. I saw signs. I ignored them, because deep down I thought if I just kept being loyal, kept playing the part, kept showing up and working hard and loving hard and giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, that maybe someone would finally choose me. They didn't, but I did. Eventually. And that napkin? I still have it. It's in my desk drawer at work, folded up next to a sticky note that says, "You already lived through the worst part. The rest is just cleanup." Funny thing about betrayal, it doesn't shout. It doesn't slam doors or flip tables like in the movies. It whispers. It sits next to you on the edge of the bed while you lace your shoes. It watches you eat dinner with the people who lied to your face, and it wraps itself around your shoulders like a blanket made of glass. After that day, I cut them off. All of them. Kara, Eric, and my mother. I didn't block their numbers right away. At first, I wanted them to reach out. I wanted an apology, or at least some twisted justification. But what I got was silence. For weeks. Not even a half-hearted text or a fake checking in. That silence said more than words ever could. I moved into a small apartment on Walton Way Extension. 2 bedrooms, beige carpet, view of nothing in particular. But it was mine. No ghosts, no lies. Just a rented space where I could finally sleep without wondering if the people I loved were whispering behind my back. The first night there, I sat on the floor eating takeout from a styrofoam container, watching the wall like it might blink first. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But it's like my emotions had been frozen mid-sentence. Just numb. Just quiet. And then the dream started. Kara, in a white dress, laughing, but it wasn't with me. Eric behind her, always behind her. Sometimes they'd be in my old kitchen, sometimes at the altar, sometimes in my childhood backyard. Always smiling, always out of reach. I started sleeping less, drinking more. And here's the thing I haven't told anyone. For a few nights, I almost called her. Not to win her back. I wasn't that delusional, but to ask why. Why him? Why us? Well, I get that far. But I never hit dial. I stared at her contact, thumb hovering, breathing like each second was a choice. Then I'd throw the phone across the room, ashamed of myself for even entertaining it. Here's the part that still stings. I loved her. Not blindly, not childishly, but fully. And when someone takes that and tosses it aside like it meant nothing, a part of you dies. Not dramatically, quietly. The way an old family photo fades in the sun until the faces blur together and you're not sure who's who anymore. I told myself I'd be okay. I just needed time. But the truth was, I didn't know who I was without them. Without her. Without the version of my life I'd been building like a Jenga tower. Turns out, she and Eric had already pulled the bottom pieces loose months ago. I just didn't see it. And Mom? She made her position clear. She called once. Left a message saying she hoped I'd come to my senses and that families don't fall apart over misunderstandings. Misunderstanding. That's what she called orchestrating my fiancé's betrayal. Like it was a poorly worded email instead of a calculated campaign. I deleted the message and saved it at the same time. Some wounds need to be kept fresh a little longer, just enough to remember where they came from. A month later, I was sitting alone at a Waffle House off I-20, same one I used to go to in college when I needed to think. Back then it was about exams or whether I should break up with someone. Now, it was about whether I'd ever trust anyone again. I just finished my coffee when someone slid into the booth across from me without asking. It was Luis, my old college roommate. We hadn't talked in years, but apparently he'd been in town visiting his folks and saw my truck outside. Said I looked like hell. I told him I'd been better. He didn't push. We made small talk for a bit, then he asked about Kara. I told him she was gone. He didn't ask why, just nodded like he knew better than to poke a bruise. Then he offered me a job. Said the company he worked for out in Charlotte had an opening in logistics. Said they needed someone who wouldn't screw things up or quit in 6 months. I laughed, told him I wasn't exactly a beacon of stability right now. He just shrugged and said that's probably why I'd be good at it. And just like that, I moved. New city, new apartment, new job. I didn't tell anyone, not mom, not Eric, not even mutual friends from back home. I left Augusta behind like a bad dream that was starting to fade. Only difference was I remembered how it felt. The thing is, pain doesn't just disappear. It morphs. It turns into a voice in your head that second-guesses everyone, even the good ones. And I hated that. I hated that Kara and Eric and Mom got to change the way I saw the world, the way I saw myself. But here's the part one didn't expect. The quiet started feeling. Okay, peaceful even. I got into the rhythm of things at work, started eating better, slept through the night for the first time in months. There was a woman named Shay in accounting who brought in these terrible brownies every Monday that somehow grew on you. She smiled at me once in the break room, and I caught myself smiling back. Not a full smile, but something. One day I came home and realized I hadn't thought about Kara all day. Not even once. That hit me harder than I expected. Like I was betraying the version of me that had held on for too long. But I wasn't. I was just finally letting go. It started with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Just a screenshot. Eric and Kara, sitting on a sun-bleached patio somewhere that looked suspiciously like Panama City Beach. His arm around her. Her eyes vacant. Caption read, "New beginnings." Yeah, an engagement post. They made it public. And I wish I could say I felt something. Rage. Jealousy. Even disgust. But instead I laughed. Quietly to myself, in that hollow way people do when the absurdity finally catches up to the pain. They'd built their fairy tale on a pile of lies. And now, they were posing like they were the victims who earned this happiness. But that wasn't the part that stuck with me. The part that did? The second screenshot. Comments under the post. One from a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to in a while. Didn't she used to be with Jake? That's his brother, right? And another. Wait, is this the same Kara from the wedding drama? Suddenly, their perfect little world didn't look so polished. It unraveled fast after that. A couple of months went by, and the updates started trickling in through the grapevine. Kara lost her job. Apparently, her office had some sort of policy about relationships that started under morally ambiguous circumstances. Eric's band? Yeah, he started a band. Broke up after a fight over money. My mom had a health scare. Nothing serious, but enough to remind her she wasn't immortal. And nobody, not even Eric, was picking up the phone anymore. The same people who used to praise him for doing the bare minimum suddenly didn't have time for his drama. I'd seen that look in his eyes before, when the attention faded. When he realized being the favorite doesn't pay bills or fix broken plumbing. Especially when the people who used to clean up his messes stopped answering his calls. I won't lie. Watching it all unfold, it felt good. Not because I'm petty, but because for once, the universe didn't just look the other way. For once, someone else had to sit with the mess they made. And me? I kept my head down, showed up to work, did my job, brought Shay some real brownies one Monday just to be a good sport. Eventually, she invited me to a cookout with her friends. Said I could bring someone if I wanted. I didn't. Not yet. But when I stood there that Saturday afternoon, red Solo cup in hand, watching people laugh and grill and talk like the world wasn't broken, I felt something shift. I wasn't healed, but I wasn't angry anymore either. It was a Thursday morning when my mom called again. I hadn't heard her voice in almost a year. Just a voicemail she left after it all exploded. This time, I almost didn't answer. My thumb hovered, same as it had with Kara. But something in me was tired of running. So I picked up. Her voice cracked before she said anything. That fake sweetness she used to coat everything with was gone. What came through was smaller. Frail, even. She asked how I'd been. Said she missed me. That she wished things had gone differently. I waited. Because here's the thing. My whole life, she talked in circles. Made everything sound like a misunderstanding. Like maybe I just took it the wrong way. But not this time. She didn't defend what she'd done. She didn't make excuses. She admitted she'd crossed a line. That she manipulated things because she thought she knew better. That she never imagined it would blow up the way it did. And then she said the one thing I never thought I'd hear. She said she was wrong. I didn't say much. Just sat there listening, the silence between us louder than it had ever been. But I wasn't angry anymore. I realized that while I'd cut her off to protect myself, I hadn't wanted revenge. I just wanted truth. Some acknowledgement that I wasn't crazy. That what happened did happen, and it wasn't just in my head. After the call, I sat in my car for a long time, parked outside the office, engine running. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just exhaled, like I've been holding my breath for a whole year and finally let it out. I didn't tell her we were okay, because we're not. But I told her I heard her. Sometimes that's all there is. 6 months after the call with my mom, my manager pulled me aside at work. Told me the regional director was retiring early. Said they needed someone steady, someone who knew how to handle people without making everything about them. I didn't even ask what made them think I fit that bill. I just nodded and said I'd think about it. Truth is, I already knew I'd say yes. When you spend your whole life cleaning up after people, you get good at knowing where messes start. And I've been quietly fixing things around that office since my first month. Helping new hires without being asked. Staying late without clocking overtime. Carrying the load others didn't even notice. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because it kept my mind from drifting to things I couldn't fix. Like a family that chose someone else. Like a woman who once promised forever and didn't make it to summer. Taking that promotion didn't feel triumphant. It felt still, like planting a flag in your own little corner of the world and saying, this part, at least, is mine. A week into the new job, I changed my voicemail. Removed the old message Kara used to tease me about. Deleted her contact, too. Not out of bitterness. Just because it didn't make sense to keep pretending she was still a chapter. She wasn't. Not anymore. Shay noticed the change in me. I guess everyone did. I smiled more. I made jokes at meetings. I even joined a softball team, which I hadn't done since I blew out my knee back in high school. At the end of one Friday, Shay walked into my office and asked what I was doing that weekend. I said I didn't know. She said good, then handed me 2 tickets to a local jazz festival. I asked if I should bring someone. She smiled and said she already had a ride. I don't know if it was a date. And I didn't ask. Some things don't need to be labeled to feel like a beginning. It was late October when Eric finally called. I didn't recognize the number. He must have burned through his contacts, or maybe he was just too embarrassed to use the one I blocked a year ago. I didn't mean to pick up. I was elbow deep in laundry, phone pressed between shoulder and jaw, just trying to multitask. But the second I heard his voice, everything in me went still. He sounded defeated, not angry, not cocky, just empty. Said he needed a place to stay for a few days. Said things with Kara had gotten complicated. That word again. I didn't say anything. Just let him keep talking. He went on about how they'd been fighting, about bills, about her joblessness, about the fact that she still brings up my name when she's angry. That one landed like a dull thud in my chest. Not sharp, just tired. Then he said something that caught me off guard. He said he didn't know how to be the one in charge. That being the favorite didn't teach him how to be stable. That he used to think I was boring, but now he'd give anything for boring. I didn't yell. I didn't hang up. I just told him the truth. That I didn't hate him, but I didn't owe him anything either. He was quiet after that. Then he said he understood. Thanked me for picking up. That was it. No begging. No begging. Just silence before the line clicked off. I stood there holding a damp t-shirt in one hand, staring at my phone like it might turn to something else. A letter. An apology. A time machine. But it was just a call. From a brother who finally ran out of lifelines. A month after Eric's call, I found the folder again. It was buried in the back of my filing cabinet, under old utility bills and a manual to a vacuum I no longer owned. The manila folder. The one with all the receipts, screenshots, printed messages, proof of everything. Of them. Of her. Of the way it all came apart, like it was scripted. I hadn't opened it since the day I left Augusta. But that Saturday, something pulled me toward it. I sat on my back porch with a bourbon and a hoodie pulled tight around me. The air had that sharp edge that only Georgia gets when fall finally shows up, like the heat gave up and the cold still learning how to be serious. I spread the papers out on the patio table, one by one. I read every single one. Not to relive it, but to finally let it finish. Like watching the credits on a movie you already know the ending to, just to say you saw it through. Then I took a breath, picked up the whole pile, walked it over to the little fire pit I'd bought on clearance last winter, and set it all inside. No hesitation. The folder caught slowly at first. Then it bloomed orange, then red, then that deep blue at the base of real heat. Paper curling, ink blistering, words turning to ash. And it didn't fix anything. But it didn't have to. I didn't film it. Didn't post about it. Didn't even tell Shay when she called later that night. Just said I was tired and went to bed early. But for the first time, I fell asleep without replaying anything. I didn't dream about Kara or Eric or, well, my mother's voice saying, "He needs more help than you do." I just slept. And that was everything. It was Christmas Eve when I got Shay's text. She asked if I had plans. Said her brother canceled last minute, and she had too much food for one person. I was already halfway through a microwave turkey dinner from the gas station. I stared at the screen for a solid minute before I wrote back, "Sure, I'll bring something." I didn't. I just brought myself. Her place was small, warm in a way that has nothing to do with heating. She had this little crooked tree with mismatched ornaments, one of which was a wooden moose that kept tipping over. I asked about it. She said it used to belong to her dad. He'd glue it back together every year until one day she stopped asking him to. We sat on the floor with paper plates and cheap wine, watching a movie I barely remembered because most of the time I was just watching her. The way she laughed without checking to see if anyone was watching. The way she didn't try to fill the silence with empty noise. Halfway through the night, she asked if I missed them. I didn't have to ask who she meant. I told her the truth. I missed the version of them I thought was real. She nodded, like she understood more than she let on. Then she asked if I'd ever go back. Not to the people, but the place. And that's when I realized something. Loyalty isn't about staying where you're hurt. It's about knowing when to leave and having the strength not to look back. I told her I hadn't decided yet, but I had. In the weeks after New Year's, I started writing letters. Not the kind you send. The kind you write to say what needs saying, then tuck away somewhere you'll probably never look again. Therapy without the couch, I guess. I wrote one to Kara. Told her I forgave her. Not for her sake, but mine. Told her I hoped she found whatever she was chasing, even if it came wrapped in someone else's shadow. I didn't wish her well, and I didn't wish her harm. I just released her. I wrote one to Eric. Told him I used to envy him. The way everyone bent around him like he was gravity. But I never wanted his life, just the attention. The belief that I mattered. Now I know I do, even if it's quiet. Even if it's not loud love. I wrote one to Mom. This one took longer. I rewrote it 4 times. In one version, I was angry. In another, I was numb. In the final one, I just said this: "You raised me to put others first. Maybe too well. I'm learning now that I count too." And I wrote one to myself. That one I did read twice. Out loud. It said, "You didn't deserve what happened. But you're not broken. Just bruised. And you're still here. That counts for something." After that, I burned them. Just like the folder. Different fire. Same intention. Let hurt. Let heal. Let go. Last week, I drove back to Augusta. I told myself it was for work, some regional meeting they could have hosted over Zoom. But deep down, I knew. Part of me needed to see it. Not them. Not the house. Just the town. The bones of the life I used to call mine. It hadn't changed much. The same gas station where I'd bought that sad microwave turkey dinner. The same diner where I found the napkin. The same red light that used to take forever and gave me just enough time to remember everything I didn't want to. I didn't visit my mom. I didn't call Eric. And I sure as hell didn't look up Kara. I just drove. And as I passed the Savannah River, that same pull I'd felt the night everything fell apart came rushing back. Only this time, it didn't drag me under. It let me breathe. I parked at the pavilion again. Got out. Walked toward the water. The air was cold, but it didn't bite the same way. I stood there for a while, hands in pockets, letting the wind hit me like it had something to say. And maybe it did, because standing there, I didn't feel anger, or bitterness, or even sadness. I felt weightless. Not because I forgot, but because I'd finally stopped carrying it. The pain, the betrayal, the need for answers. It was all still real, still true, but it wasn't mine to hold anymore. I got back in the car, drove north until the skyline changed again, and didn't look back. Some scars you don't see unless you press on them. Others, you just know they're there. Quiet, faded, but part of you. And somehow, you keep living anyway.